One of the most frequently asked questions on the internet is, how high should my anvil stand be, or how high should the face of my anvil be? And a very common answer to that is, if you stand next to your anvil, your knuckles should be touching the face. And you read that answer very often, and I gave that advice very often myself to people, but over the years, with the experience, I find that it is a very oversimplified explanation, and often does not do the importance of the question justice, because we all have very different applications for our anvils. We express ourselves in many different fields of blacksmithing, and in many of these applications, the height of the anvil at knuckle height is not the correct one. My personal anvil is set up rather on the low side, and that has the simple reason, if I'm just forging, let's say, on letter openers, bottle openers, knives, all that kind of stuff, it can be a little bit higher, and I can work like this. But as soon as I start to use tooling, and for instance, want to forge a hammer, now my striker has to strike up here. And that, if he stands on a pellet, is just about doable. The lower you have your anvil, the easier it is for the striker to strike on the top tool. And also the more energy he can build up, getting a higher throw. Same goes for forging stuff like, let's say, a drift. We have a lot of material to work with. It makes a big difference if I can throw my hammer from way up to here or to just here. On the other hand, if I want to turn something, like a horseshoe for example, and do very tedious work, then it is beneficial to have the anvil higher, so I don't have to bend down so much. So you see, there are already a lot more considerations to make depending on what I'm forging, and it's not like I will never be forging one thing and I will always be forging one thing. I'm not in a professional production shop where I do like only one thing all the time. So what is a pretty general guideline for people that want to set up their hobby shop? They don't have a specific production of something where they really need to make their setup fit for that job. I think besides that knuckle technique, there are two ways to determine your anvil height for general forging, like what you would usually do, like bladesmithing or making tools, tongs, whatever. The first one would be, you take your main forging hammer, like these two, and you set your hammer on the anvil face, and you grab the hammer like you would be forging. And when you are in a comfortable working position, and you grab the hammer properly, your arm should be extended to about 90 to 95%. If I would be fully extending my arm, my anvil would be that low. Just a little bit less than fully extended, and you get the full throw, and you're not overextending your arm. With this hammer it's almost the same. My arm is almost entirely straight. That would be entirely straight. And this is just a little bit less than entirely straight and also not hyperextended. The second thing that I find very important with anvil height is, when we do stuff like chiseling, making animal faces and all that nice type of stuff, if you take your piece of steel and you hold it between your legs, the seam of your trousers, when you hold it against the seam of your work trousers, it should lay flat on the anvil. If it's against your trousers and you have to stand on your toes for getting the possibility to chisel it flat on the anvil, or if it's down here where you can't grab it really nicely, then you got a problem and it's impairing your workflow. So my recommendation is, against the seam of your trousers. It lays flat on the anvil. If you have your hammer with your forging grip and you stand comfortably where you feel like you can work like this for hours and hours, and your arm is not fully extended, not bent like this, but almost fully extended with the full potential of your throw, then your anvil height is well set up for general forging. But as I said, if you decide to do one project that involves a lot of striking, set your anvil lower. If you want to do a lot of tedious work, set your anvil higher. Do yourself a favor, don't fixate yourself to that simple knuckle rule, because, you know, as I demonstrated, sometimes it just does not fit, and we all are different. Humans are different. We have longer or shorter arms, longer and shorter legs, and we all do different stuff in the blacksmith shop, so keep that in mind. Don't oversimplify things, don't overcomplicate things, and have fun forging. Bye bye.